Right, we're live. Here we go. All right. I think the camera angle is right. All right, we'll go with that. Uh, All right. Hey guys, it's me, Froggy, doing a live. Again, I do apologize for last Monday at 12:30. I missed my hack time, so I missed where I was supposed to be. I think it's for a good reason, but it doesn't excuse not letting people know. People who take time out of their day and plan and show up. So just want to apologize for that. Looks like I made it this time, and we're gonna try every Monday going forward to keep it at 12:30. Newt, who's that guy? Who's Newt? Never heard of that guy. King Casher, what's going on? Dragon Lady, how you guys doing? But we're gonna keep this Monday 12:30 slot. Seems to be working well for me, at least, and looks like it works well for others. And again, if something comes up where I can't make it, I'll try to get the word out ahead of time. But it looks like the next couple Mondays at 12:30 are still good, so we're gonna keep rolling with that. Mushi, what's going on? How you doing? All right. And yes, the other elephant in the room. There's a little bit of scruff. I have a plan for a Halloween costume that might include a beard, so we're gonna see if I can get that going by Halloween. I'm not really a beard guy. My skin gets really dry with it, and it gets itchy, and I don't want to be a beard guy, just a dude with a beard, so I don't buy all the stuff you need to take care of it, and that's neither here nor there. This story we're gonna get into today, the treasure trail. It's one we've been building to in a couple different ways. One, the natural progression of the book. Obviously, if you go through the chapters in chronological order, well, not chronological order. If you go through the chapters in the order they are presented in the book, there's a build up. Two, this story feels like a build up, and I'll explain what I mean by that when I get into it. And three, there's I don't want to be overly dramatic here for no reason. There's some hey Christina Lee, how you doing? There's some sensitive topics that could come up in this story. So if you don't know what we're talking about, just be forewarned. If you do know what we're talking about, then I guess you already know what we're talking about. If that sentence didn't make sense. But okay, let's go ahead and without any more introduction, let's go ahead and get into it. We're talking about the treasure trail. This is Beyond the Map's Edge. This is a treasure podcast, story, video, whatever, YouTube, and we're going to talk about one of the best book clubs there is, the Justin and Posey Book Club. As we read this book, read his poem, and try to figure out where 1 point something million in gold and treasure is hidden out there in the woods. All right. Oh, it's P3. Okay, now we know. P3. All right, so here we go. The treasure trail, and again, it's very rare for a story to start out like this. Very rare, meaning it might only happen twice. Let's see, there's the prologue, West Yellowstone, August 2018. And then we have West Yellowstone, August 2018. So I see this as a nice little foreshadowing. I don't know what the exact literary thing you would call it is, but we pick up almost right before the prologue. So to me, that's very interesting. And I think there's only 2 or 3 spots in the book where a story gives you a little, what I'm talking about is this line right here. A little, I don't know, subtitle, a little heading. So to me, that's very significant, right? Love Treasure Island. Love that book. Okay. So we know where we are. We know when we are. We're getting out here, and we have Brandon, right? A pretty significant character in the story of Justin's life. And by all accounts, it seems to be a pretty significant character for the hunt. So, and we have a more detailed location, Baker's Hole Campground. Right off the bat, the language here seems different, right? So listen to this sentence, right? By the time my morning tea had whispered its last confession, right? So, I mean, yes, the story before this was, action filled with the whole Grizzlies, but this language to me, it just seems like a shift. And I could be reading more into it. Hey, what's up, Art? How you doing? Thanks for watching. But okay, let's go on. So that kind of sets the tone there in the beginning. Then we have Brandon appearing. And I picked this up on this last read-through. I didn't realize that it looks like Brandon had been living in this van for at least a couple weeks, maybe longer, months. And so hear me out, right? So we have the van shelves told stories of 1,000 journeys, artifacts from the world's corners, right? And so you would expect that from a military guy, right? Would pick up trinkets from around the world. That makes sense. And maybe Brandon, outside of the military, was a world traveler in his own right. So the van holds memories from there. Notice this, where you would expect chaos from weeks of road life, there was instead a shrine to order. A shrine to order. Everything arranged with monastic precision, as if the very act of organizing was a form of prayer. To me, that's an immediate callback to his father loading the vehicle. Right? It's an ancient rite, and so I'm wondering if both brothers, in their own right, carry that on, or if Justin's pointing that out. Right? If this is just something that happens and it's tough when you have a story like this. Is this just Justin opening up and letting us know who he is, what he's all about, his family, or is it a clue, right? And we have to kind of judge that with everything that we read. But I do think that there is something there. I'd encourage you to look it up as well. The connection between organizing and loading things, particularly in reference to travel, right? There's that excellent reference earlier in the book about his father and the ancient ritual of loading the truck, right? We see that in Netflix, right? We see Justin not just like when I load stuff, it's embarrassing. I just grab a duffel, throw clothes, head to the closet, grab a pack, throw a few things in last minute, and we go out the door, right? Rituals, exactly, exactly. But Justin, we see it. And again, a lot of people say that there's some clues there, and maybe there are. Maybe there's clues in the specifics of what he's labeled, but we saw his garage, right? It looks very organized, very labeled. And so we see him taking things out from their location, placing them, and then again taking them from their temporary location to another spot. Which again, because I'm a multi-state guy, I still think that that's significant, right? Why not just take it from the shelf and put it in your car? All right. Oh no, it's a ritual. It's a process. You take it from the shelf, you put it on the floor, you organize it, and then you load it into your truck. Right. So again, I could be reading way more into that. But yeah, maybe not. No, I love a list with a dash of OCD when packing. Yeah, my mother's the same way. My wife's in between. I guess it depends on where she goes. It's if I'm planning a trip, she's very much just going with the flow. If it's her trip, she has the list and crossing things off as we pack. All right, let's get into it. A little be forewarned, this one might be a little bit longer. One, the story is a longer story. Two, there's a lot of things that I'm pointing out. Okay, so we go on. A mobile reliquary, each trinket a touchstone to some distant memory. So, touchstone is an interesting word. I could spend, and I when I think of the word touchstone, I think of it more video gamey. But there is, if you haven't looked up the word touchstone, it's a very interesting read. There's callbacks to like native culture, to ancient peoples. There's a direct callback from touchstones to rituals. A lot of times touchstones take place, or a ritual needs a touchstone to take place. And again, so I'm reading this and I'm like finding all kinds of things, and I'm like, hold on, it doesn't make sense that Justin would jam 20 clues in one story at the end when most stories I only find a few things, right? So some of this stuff has got to be flavor or context, or maybe not. Who knows? Uh, yeah. Several garage doors labeled kitchen. Yeah, so it could be something there. All right, so we're moving on. We have the Airstream, right? There's some descriptive language talking about it, catching the summer light like a massive foil wrapped spud shimmering among the pines. And again, is the description? This is always the struggle we face when reading a book associated with a treasure hunt. Are the descriptive lines descriptive because he's hiding a clue, or are they descriptive just for a poetic license for flowery writing, right? So immediately that calls out the cabin that was wrapped in foil, right? That a lot of people, kind of hesitated, and boom, later they showed pictures that, nope, people do that. And so they looked at the trinkets, yes. Yeah, Krista Lee, sorry, yes. Oh, it's going with the flow. King Casher, I like that, just going with the flow. This was another thing I thought was important. Now I've kind of pushed it aside. The sentence, like my colleagues, I work from home. I don't know. It's just a short sentence. When I think of short sentences, because I had a really great English teacher, I always think of Ernest Hemingway. Especially short punctuated sentences, I can't help but to think about that. That's one thing that they drilled into me. That's the only thing I really remember from Hemingway is short punctuated sentences, because our teacher was always saying that. But in a couple paragraphs where there's a lot of flowery writing descriptive, this one stood out. Here's the whole sentence, right? Like my colleagues, I work from home. Boom, period. So I was like, what's that? But I guess in the context, it doesn't stand out that much because the next sentence, again, very short, which is kind of odd for most of the book. This book is not a book of short punctuated sentences. He goes, it's just that my home kept moving. But I don't know, from what I remember of writing, you do short punctuated sentences when you're trying to emphasize a point. And if his point is he's different from his colleagues because he keeps moving and he's got like a mobile home, then that kind of fits. Again, this chapter, I'm not going to go deep into every single location mentioned here. That's something you can do on your own. Because one, I think that because the location is mentioned, first off, I don't believe it's in Yellowstone at all. And I know that's kind of a little bit up in the air, but I just don't think he would hide it in Yellowstone. But the descriptions of places in Yellowstone, I think, can apply to places outside of Yellowstone, right? And he said kind of as much in the Tyler interview, right? He talks about, the landscapes are the hint, right? So when you hear stuff like among the pines, right? When you hear stuff like I climbed an Engelmann spruce, right? When you hear stuff like ensconced in the shadow of Sawtooth Mountain, those are all from this like same paragraph. But that's kind of description that you would think of. Okay, maybe not in Sawtooth Mountain, but ensconced in the shadow. That might be a place you'd be looking for if you're at your boots on the ground spot and you see a lot of pines. That's probably a good sign, right? So just something to think about, right? And here we have some great. This is how much he cares for his dog, right? He's got not only redundancy but like triple layer backup for Tucker, right? He's got dual air conditioners, not one but two. He's got backed up power. He's got generator, and then he's got a remote monitoring. So that's four. That's four backups. But I guess when you have a dog and the weather's calling for heat, it's better safe than sorry. And I mean, this is way more than a dog than him. But here's an important part, right? Listen to this sentence, page 181. But routine, and again, this book is full of routine. This story in particular, there's so many references to routine. Anyways, part of me always lingered behind, curled invisible beside him in the quiet of the trailer. So, okay, at a service level, you've got a dog you love very much, you care for, and while you're going on this great adventure with your brother, who you love and care for also, there's a part of you that's staying behind with the dog. And again, if we don't read any deeper into that, it's just, he loved Tucker. I mean, he's got like 4 layers of redundancy built into making sure the dog doesn't overheat. But I don't know, but I guess if you look a little bit deeper, you could ask the question, what part of him? What part of him is staying behind with Tucker? And if you answer that question, a lot of people believe that Tucker plays a big role into the poem, and they're looking for what part of the poem is connected to Tucker. So if you found out what part of Justin stays behind with Tucker, you could take that part and look for it in the poem, right? You kind of see what I'm saying, going with that. Okay, let's. That dude is that username is probably not appropriate. Let's go ahead and. How can I do here? Let's do that. Okay, just saw that one up there. All right, no Yellowstone, in my opinion. Yeah, no Yellowstone, not in Yellowstone, not in Yellowstone. Yeah. All right. And he even says so as much, right? Where's the line about national parks? And yeah, here we go. Dogs face a particular exile in national parks, banned from any adventure that strays from pavement. So I mean, again, it's in my opinion, he's not really a fan of national parks for that reason. So I mean, if I found stuff that led me to a national park, I wouldn't like discount it immediately, but I'm definitely national parks are lower on the end there. Yeah, what's going on? Rose, how you doing? Spirit or soul, right? So I mean, and maybe is there a word for maybe a specific part of spirit or soul, or is it he's leaving his whole spirit or soul behind? So it's just interesting to think about, and if you haven't already thought about that. Okay, here we go. So we have a slide dance, and I only call out the name dance because the word dance because of 3 or 4 stories ago when twice in one chapter they mentioned dancing of animals, dancing of bees is one, and the other one's a drunken spider dancing across. Yat, what, that, what's going on? Yeah, what's going on? We are more than man dog. We are guardians of each other's souls. Guardians. So again, it's maybe his whole soul is left behind, right? Art that's bait. Not taking the bait there. But yeah. Okay, so here we go. Talking about more about the day. My personal rule? Question mark. Like, did we ask? So whenever Justin asks a lot of questions, sometimes he answers them, but very rarely in the book. I can only think of maybe one or two where the punctuation of the punctuation seems to imply that we asked a question that he answered. So my personal rule? Question mark. Like we asked, what's your personal rule? Uh, only summon the will to greet the day. If only summon the will to greet the sun if the day promises something spectacular, something worth the sacrifice of warm sheets. All right. So again, this is a callback to me to the story that's not actually in this book. It's in the audiobook where they talk about his nanny and her mother and their personal rule, right? That's written in stone. So that's another like 2 or 3 layers of emphasis right there. Yeah, yeah, it's freshly shaved like an hour or two ago, so it's extra shiny up there. Put a lot of wax on it. So seen it ignored. um, personal rule, personal. Okay, yeah. So again, summon the will to greet the day. So again, there's a little bit of personification going on here. If you're a person who thinks that the pronouns apply to celestial objects, right in the poem, so the his, the I, the her are celestial objects. So right, so here's just one small example, right? You're greeting the sun, right? It's a little bit of a personification there. Then we have a call out to an exact e-bike, right? A UBCO 2x2 e-bike, right? So again, who did I see? Somebody, I don't know if they actually bought it or they just showed it, but they seem to imply that they were buying it. I don't know if they actually did it or not, but they found that same one. They're like, this is the one I'm using, and maybe there's maybe he put the specific, right, the e-bike, because maybe that's a clue for later on for how he did his 4 trips, right? Again, I just think of this is a little shout out to I don't know, my friend. I think he considers me a friend. I don't know. I consider him a friend. The dude's such a cool dude, Scott. So he had called out last night on a round table that he picked up from Sandal's TikTok live interview of Justin, that when Justin answered what animal he saw, that he kind of said something like on that day. And so again, waiting for the interview to come out, and she's been very gracious. She'll get it out there to see the exact words. Because if he said on that day, that seems to imply that it was one day that he did all the hiding back. And we know from Emma Jam that it was 4 trips, right? So 4 trips in one day with we saw the Facebook video of right before he injured his leg. So healing back from a leg, 4 trips in one day, carrying weight, 60 pounds over 4 trips. It just seems to imply the difficulty and length that you have to go from when you park, right? Versus if it's 4 trips, a couple weeks apart, a couple days apart, that has a different implication there. So I don't know. That's just something I'm personally waiting for to see if we can go back and run that tape through and see if he said on that day or on the day, or versus a day, right? If he said something like, oh, on one of the days or a day I was out there, that would imply more than 1 days. And we know he took recon trips, so maybe that's what he's speaking of. I don't know. It's just I'm getting a little sidetracked. Let me finish this story here. And then at the end, if there's question Q&A, we can go back. Let's see. Much love to the frog. Davio, appreciate you, man. Much love there, Davio. Hair and makeup. Thank you. Did it myself. All right, B&H, thumbs up, dude. All right. Okay, e-bike, moving down. Windows, candy, children. Okay, so this is, all right. So this is, again, I love and appreciate Justin, man. I love what he's done. Love the story. This little caveat. I like that word, caveat, because this next line, to me, it stood out. And it stood out in context of what's going to happen later in the story. So we'll go ahead and say it right here, right? So, listen, direct quote from the book. That morning, my truck carried us into a landscape. We love landscape, right? We love that word. That morning, my truck carried us into a landscape Brandon hadn't touched in years. From the shotgun seat, he drank in the scenery like a man savoring his first bourbon after a decade of drought, right? It's just an odd to me because 2 pages later, we have Brandon, though, had long since forsworn hard liquor, a decision born from his Coast Guard days, a tale that lived in fragments and whispered hints of a wilder past. Beer would do just fine. So I just thought that was interesting. Like, all right, it's just an odd analogy in my opinion. Again, unless there's something there. I don't know if there's something there. Again, we're trying to analyze everything here. I mean, I get what he's saying, right? I don't currently drink, but I know what it feels like to go for a distance without having a drink and then have that drink again. Like I'm familiar with that experience. So again, so he drank in the scenery like a man savoring his first bourbon after a decade of drought. Like there's so many other analogies you could have applied, and especially the call out to bourbon, right? So on one of my wilder theories, I was thinking that this was another little nod or hint to casks, right? To cask and gills and barrels, right? We're hammering home. We're close to the end of the book. There's a lot of significance in this story. We're hammering home the significance of a cask, of a barrel, of a gill. I don't know. It could just be flowery writing and how he felt that day. Again, he put this thing together in a couple of weeks, right? Let's go. Katie Lee. I thought he said on one trip. Okay, so one trip again. We're waiting for the hey, what's up? G Limon, what's going on? We'll see what the final thing says. Stretcher Smith, how you doing? Hi. And Mick. How you doing, Mick? All right. So again, causing down some call-outs names of rivers, the Madison, the Gibbon Firehole. Dawn has a way of making the world feel newly forged, steam spiraling from the water like ancient spirits stretching awake. Okay, so this line, very significant. A lot of discussion about this line right here, because one of the things we're looking for is water silent flight, right? So we have one example of that, steam, right there in the book. We also are looking for ancient gates. Well, here's an ancient spirit. Maybe ancient gates are tied to ancient spirits. Who knows? But to have both of those in one sentence, to me, I mean, you can't just run by that, right? You got to look at it and analyze it a little bit. Now we have dawn, right? We have, hope surging. Dawn has a way of making the world feel newly forged, surging and new, right? Forging. So again, this one sentence seems to be filled with like 4 or 5 different things. Rivers dancing their morning ritual, and we've seen the tie-in from ritual to ancient, right? So this paragraph right here just seems to be filled with direct poem emphasis, right? Do we know what came first, the poem or the book? Great question, Kelly. Do we know what came first, poem or the book? I've always thought the poem came first. Again, I'm running off of, I think this the American Treasure podcast that said something like, I'm going to get this exact quote wrong, but it's led us to believe that it was the poem and the Netflix, right? It was the website and the Netflix were how he was going to launch, and then he came the book. So again, Mick Munch is saying book. I've always thought that it was, well, okay, so here you go. So how would you consider it? Would you consider finished or first? Because he did the poem and held back 2 words, right? So would you consider the poem is not finished until those last 2 words are done? Because in that case, he said he waited until like the book was almost done to put in those last 2 words in the poem. Again, I've always taken that he had the Netflix lined up with the website; those 2 were together, and on the website he had the poem. So I don't know. It's that's a great question, Kelly. That's why I'm stopping the chapter story to read through it and discuss it a little bit. Let's see what the chat has some thoughts here. The poem was last thing finished by Art. Max on the Rocks, he said something about having the poem in his head for a while. Yeah. So again, Max, I think that I'm on that line. Some of the lines in the poem have been there for a long time. I personally think that this place that has filled with secrets and lore and personal attachments, I think he had words for that place when he was there. Words maybe even spoken by his father about that place, right? People that are no longer here that know about it. These last 2 words, that's a good call out. You think he wrote the book with the poem already planned out in his head? Max, just click on this Newt's brother, Medina. Yeah, my crazy brother Newt, man. He's out there running around, just showing that mullet off is what he's doing. M dash was the last 2 words. Could be Davio, or just every time read the line with multiple poem words. Yeah, Kelly. And now thank you for sharing the context. I was like, oh, well, where's Kelly trying to go? I feel like she's trying to go somewhere. But that's exactly right. Anytime you read a line like that with multiple poem references, if the poem was already written, that would have to make it true. But if he wrote the book and the book was like, if this sentence was written way before the poem, in my head, I'm with Max. He had the majority of this poem, special keywords, right? Sacred space, the place. Maybe even Foot of Three. Maybe even Bride and Realm decided way before he wrote the book. That's just my personal opinion. No real proof to back that up. Could be a question to ask Justin. I'm pretty sure I know what kind of answer he would give, though. All right. Moving on. Page 182 in the hardback. There's been a lot of discussion here. A slip sideways into Iron Springs domain where silence held court. This is interesting to see. I think this is as close as we get in the book to hear how Justin's brain thinks about solving a treasure, right? Going back when his childhood, when he's looking for Spanish conquistador gold, his mindset there was look for things in nature that seem out of place, like a specific grouping of saguaro cactuses, right? So that was kind of the mindset then. He had a book of Spanish treasure symbols. So as you read the book as you're a kid, you go out, you look for things that seem out of place, seem man-made, seem intentional. Boom, there must be treasure there. So we can follow that logic. So now we see he's grown up, he's got a lot of experience. This is his logic here, right? The line in the poem says, "I can keep my secret where?" And so Secret Valley, the exact word, same word, secret, right? So it's interesting to see how he's explaining it to us as we read it. And we see some more down here below. We have in bold, where warm waters halt, nice little arrow, where the fire hole and given waters merge, their heated breath to birth the Madison, right? So again, this is just, to me, it's important to understand how, I don't know if I can go as bold to say it's important to understand how he thinks. More, I would say it's important to understand how he wants us to think he thinks, because it's written down. All right, and then we have the blaze, right? And so this, to me, is very significant. This is the game's heart. The book mentions heart, I can't remember off the top of my head, 5 or 6 times, and like 3 of them, 2 or 3 are in Montana. And one's in the desert, and this is the game's heart right here. A mystery folded within a mystery, hidden in plain sight. That's what we're all trying to do, right? That's a very common thing to say of, oh, it can't be this, it's too obvious. Well, it's hidden in plain sight, just like his book says. What I'd pierced together, direct quote from the book, suggested something subtle, something required eyes trained by years of searching to recognize. I don't think that that's what he wants us to go off of, right? He hasn't said the word blaze. He uses checkpoint. Something that we can see that will confirm that it's not, we're not wasting our vacation days, right? And he's kind of expounded on that. I say that tongue in cheek. I went boots on the ground almost a month ago now with my father and did not feel like I wasted a single moment, even though the place we came out didn't have any treasure. And now in recent light, the way I was using the bride, Justin's kind of disqualified. So that spot would have been null and kaput if I had waited a couple months. But I'm glad I didn't wait, because I made so many memories. So many of the little towns around Prescott, Arizona were just so great. People were great. Food was great. Scenery was great. Weather was great. So I can't say enough things about it. So again, it was not wasted, right? It was treasures and memories that we built up. But here we go. This is Justin he's trying to, with his hunt right now, is trying to tweak, alter, fix, whatever you want to say, what he experienced with the Fen hunt. Some of the frustrations there, some of the frustrations that might have had to some negative outcomes. And so if he believed that the blaze was something that was subtle and required eyes trained by years of searching to recognize, I think he would do the exact opposite for some aspect, right? We'll say that, some aspect of his poem. Not the whole thing. He's not just going to throw it away for us. Obviously not, because it's taken us this long. But in my mind, that's the checkpoint, right? Something that... but, I mean, this is the rub right here, right? He listened to this sentence, page 183. The kind of marker that would mean nothing to most, but everything to the right observer. That's us. I hope, as the treasure hunters, we're the right observer. And so how can someone be within 200 feet and not see it? In my mind, it's because it's behind or beyond, go beyond, a natural protective barrier, either a ridge or ravine. There's no trail near here. Hunters don't go here. So there's no reason for a person to be there. The only way you'd be there is if your car had an emergency and you stopped. But this barrier is a thing of last resort. In my mind, that's kind of how I'm picturing it, right? Ryan S., that this would be too long. Ryan S., if you're on Discord, we can talk about it after it. I can talk about it, or I can kind of briefly say at the end of this story. But don't let me forget Ryan S. He answered a few things about the bride in the interview. All right, here we go. My brother wielded sarcasm like a master fencer, subtle, precise, and deadly. Most people couldn't read him, couldn't tell if he was mocking or merely doubting. again, I think this story right here is actually giving us a lot of insight into Brandon, because the way he'll put a quote that Brandon said, right? For example, this is where it's hidden, huh? And then he interprets that quote in his how he interprets it, right? So another one, Brandon will do an action, a shrug, and then he kind of interprets that for us. So in my mind, this is giving us a lot of insight from Brandon, and I have to ask myself, why? We're giving insight on Tucker, now we're giving insight on Brandon. Is it because something in the poem is we need a little bit of a baseline of how Brandon thinks and operates, and that's what Justin's sharing us, because he doesn't want people who grew up or knew Brandon to have an advantage, to make sure we're all on equal foot. So he's giving us a little bit of Brandon characteristics here. So when we look in the poem, we see something that's applicable to Brandon, we'll know how to interpret it. Just a kind of rough idea to go off there. Here we go. More poem words, right? Kelly Carter, something to think about right here. Do those poetic clues still sing when you're standing in their shadows? Shadowed sight is what we're looking for, right? Being there changes everything. And this is something that I feel this segment of the story is hard to communicate unless you've been boots on the ground. But he does a really good job of trying, again, to get us all on even foot. Here we go. I missed a little bit of the chat. Let me go back. Pre-FF, I agree. Punt, definitely a punt. He definitely punt. But he might say something like before the punt. Something to the effect of, we got to ask the right question, right? Thoughts and realities. It's not who you are, it's who they think you are, Forrest Fenn. And that's what he's doing, right, Max? Because at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter who Justin is, other than to him, right? That's his own personal business. It's who we think he is. And again, that only matters to us if we're trying to find the treasure. If we're just reading this book and we're not really going out there to find the treasure, I mean, I guess you can think about Justin whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. But to have the best chance, you need to kind of figure out what he's trying to communicate across. Excellent. I like that, Max. Very good. Treasure's a journey. Newt. All right, Ryan S. I think I answered what Ryan said. Yeah. Okay. Continuing on. Still live. Okay. But yeah. So this part right here, what gear, how long the search, is something that's really, I think, is great advice for anyone who's going boots on the ground, especially if you haven't gone before. A lot of the stuff is kind of common sense you'll run into once you've already been out there. But if you haven't, this part is key. Here we go. Then we have the famous picture, right? The famous contest. That could be a whole video on itself. So I'm not gonna get into that. I'm just gonna move right along. The numbers told stories, right? That's Treasure Hunter's Calculus. This is something that I've been part of. So there's so many numbers in this book. There's so many numbers that he uses that seem odd in place. The vials of blood. Why so many? It's a lot. Ways to mend a fence. That's an incredibly high number, right? So by using a number that's incredibly high for the situation, it draws more attention to that. And what do we do if we're in a treasure hunt? Well, we're looking for numbers because we're looking for measurements. We're looking for locations. And that's all part of what he calls the treasure hunter's calculus, right? But at the same time, I don't even think we need calculus. So that's the kind of, right? He mentions calculus in the book. He's like, you just need basic addition, a little bit of simple operations there. But again, this is what I did to find the treasure, is my treasure hunter's calculus, right? High scoring spots rose like cream through my list, earning the right to deeper scrutiny. That's how I read that sentence and started applying that almost immediately. I bought the ebook. I went out. I made entire Excel sheets over what words were used the most, what words in conjunction with each other, built a whole little cross-referencing sheet. And at the end of the day, it led me to Arizona, but again, didn't find the treasure. And now some new interviews and new lights have come out that I've kind of moved away doing that. Every once in a while, I'll refer back to that list, but I'm no longer actively trying to add to that Excel sheet. Again, he brings the blaze, that damned blaze, right? The kind of mark you might pass 100 times without seeing. And that's what people who are doing, who are driving by it, right, on the road. We know that the road's got to be within a couple miles, pretty close of it. So who knows? All those people that are traveling the road, that a 1 point something million is sitting out there, if they only stopped their car and walked for a little bit, right? But it's hidden. Thank you, King Casher, for doing that, for replying. And he can't take Tucker, right? That's another thing, right? That's got to be some frustration there. That if only he could take Tucker, the dog that he trained, spent years training, that could rule out places for him, but he can't. So again, methodically combing the woods. Again, and I think this is part of where he went through and he's like, I don't want someone to do this. I think he enjoyed every time he was out there in the woods. I think he enjoyed the scenery. He enjoyed spending time with his brother. But I think he did not particularly enjoy the hours spent, combing in the sun, looking for something so subtle you can walk by and miss, right? And I think that's why we don't have to grid search if we've interpreted everything correctly. Let's grab a bite to eat it over. Then we have a little bit of a little bit of food here. He does a nice little shout out to to the place, Madison Crossing, preferred haunt. I definitely agree with him. I think something about eating and drinking allow you to strategize, make you want to sit and plan stuff out. And then we have a list. So there's most of the book, the prose is written in kind of a uniform manner, right? He throws in some italicized, throws in one place a dingus. If you don't know what a dingus is, it's three asterisks together. But for the most part, he throws in M dashes. It's kind of uniform. This story has two sections that break from that. You've got the bolding on page 182, bolding with arrows. And now we have a bunch of a list with stuff crossed out. So, I mean, that's got to be significant, right? And then here's the thing. If that's a significant part, then how many other things in this story can be significant? Because now we're calling up like 4 or 5 things in one story that we're using as significant. And he said the clues are sprinkled throughout, and not every story has a clue. I don't know. These are kind of the internal dialogues I have with myself. Man, there's a thing in the Netflix doc that nobody's mentioned, and it's driving me crazy trying to figure out before I bring it up. Hey, if you want to bring it up now, you can, Ryan. Or if it's valuable to you, always hold on to it. Because hey, that could be the clue that breaks it open for you. So, not trying to pressure you here. Everything in me said Wyoming. All right, that's not me reading that from the book. It's Justin, and I'm really liking right now. I'm on the record of saying Idaho stands at 2. I'm on the record of saying New Mexico stands at 2. Now my current stanza 2 is in Wyoming. That's why I'm really keen in on Wyoming right now. And again, his conviction is not on a hunch. It's voice and facial analysis and machine learning algorithms, which I'm gonna leave that alone. All right. So moving on. We have a lot of places mentioned here, right? He kind of goes through the list that he just mentioned. This list right here, or he's crossed out. All right, Ryan's dropping nuggets. Ryan, what we got? 3 sides. 3 sides of time is all I want to say. If anyone else notices, they'll know what I mean. 3 sides of time. Time is 4-dimensional. 3 sides. Triangle of time. I don't know. All right. The clock faces making angles. But thank you. Hey, I want to appreciate it, Ryan. Can't discount anything, so thank you for sharing that. All right. So he goes through and brings out some of the places on the list. Iron Pipe, Water Hole, Barnes Hole. This is a pretty funny... whenever Justin uses words that I would call silly words, I think I always kind of want to key in on them. And this little section right here has some silly words, right? Sparkling Rainbow Unicorn Falls. Smelly Bog of Despair. And this calls up, a lot of people have said that him writing this down, meaning that the local name is the name that you want to pay attention to. Just because something's called something on Google Maps or Google Earth or whatever, or Apple Maps, that's not what he's going to refer to in the poem, right? You need the local name. So that would require just a secondary level of research to find it. I don't know. I don't know where I sit on that exactly yet. I'm not doing that level of research yet. Probably if a year goes by, I'll probably be there. There's plenty of surface level stuff I'm still trying to scratch through. But are you thinking time travel involved? I love that. It's Newt, man. Newt is a true champion. He can gobble him down like no other. That dude's a monster when it comes to the glizzies. All right. So here we go. The wrong note. So now we're focused on songs again, right? From this last interview. If you haven't watched it yet, I really highly encourage you. Sandal said, I think it should be up tonight, if I remember. Tonight over the next 3 days. Definitely want to watch that. There's some new information about the songs here. So here we talk about road noise, the constant intrusion of engines and horns. It struck a wrong note. The way I interpret that is, if you can hear vehicles moving down the road when your boot's on the ground, you're in the wrong spot. Which is a little bit of a paradox because you have to park off the road to start walking. I just think you have to move further. This came into play with me several places that I went boots on the ground. it was like a beautiful spot. The scenery matched perfectly, but like 100 feet in, I could still hear the highway. Or it wasn't a highway; it was like a 2-lane, but I could still hear cars on there. To me, that's what example of the wrong note, right? So something I'm looking for is the landscape matches, the scenery matches. You see something, hopefully you see the checkpoint, and you don't hear the road behind you, right? So here's another reference. We're always looking for time, right? So 2013 summer, we have a little reference there. Rose in my memory. Shout out to Rose. How could 5 years have slipped by so quickly? This wasn't another pin on the map. This was sacred ground for us. Sacred, again. So many call outs in this one story for sacred, ritual, ancient. And here we have right now, sacred ground. What about that ground made it sacred? We have, the days spent during the summer searching for treasure, wading through deep pools of memory. Memory, that's something that lives in time. 2 boys with fishing rods, learning the water's secrets. I agree, Kelly Carter. I guess it really does. You have to answer that question for yourself. What came first, the chicken or the egg? What came first, the book or the poem? Because this story right here is just full. I could probably do 2 videos. I might do 2 videos on this one story alone. Chad Bird, what's going on? The man, the myth, the legend. How you doing? Hope your hunt's going well, buddy. All is well. Thank you, friend, for stopping in. A river could cover up the sound of a road less than 100 feet. Yeah. Oh, I like that. I like that, Max. Never thought about that. That maybe another sound cancels out the road sound, right? So 2 wrong notes make a right note, or 1 wrong note and 1 right note, right? King Casher, hello all. Teresa, hey, how you doing? All right, moving on. Objectivity dissolved when it came to 9 Mile Hole. I think a lot of us are facing the same thing. There's places that we all have right now where our objectivity dissolves, right? And here we go. Again, here's the connection for sacred places tied to fishing, right? And for me, fishing is early on in the poem, but the sacred aspect, right, for sacred space is later in the poem. So is that a callback? Are there 2 kind of watery places? Who knows? I will. You know why? Because we're going up on 40 minutes, and there's still a lot of this story left. I want to go. This is going to be the first story where there's a 2-parter. I will cut it for a while because there's some topics I do want to discuss, and we'll pick this one up probably Thursday. But yeah, let's get into some of the stuff we talked about. So many flags are raised, Kelly Carter. This is and I think it's an important issue to solve, and maybe the answer is right because so Art brought up earlier that Justin said that he didn't finish the poem, and Max said, he's kind of alluded to he's had parts of the poem built in his head. So how do you weigh that? How do you view the book now if you have a poem that conceptually, maybe some phrases, some rhymes were built years in advance, but they're not full. But now you have references. Oh, and you know why? Maybe that could be the reason why there's a lot of references to a particular topic for example, let's throw an example. A lot of ritual, ancient, sacred, routine, right? Those 4 spread out throughout the poem. Spread out throughout the book. Because he doesn't know which exact one he'll use in the poem, right? He ends up going with ancient gates and sacred space. So maybe that's why in the book you'll see a certain topic talked about very descriptively multiple places because he's given himself a little bit of wiggle room. He knows that he's going to use one of those words in the poem, but not which, right? So just something to think about, right? Tons of poems going to story camp. Yeah, this is going to be a 2-parter. We're going to come back to this story right here, and I think it's doing it justice, right? This is not something. None of these stories are anything we could cover in an hour, right? We've all spent months going over this book. We've all spent months on certain stories. So I don't feel bad about cutting this story in half and talking about it half on one day and half on the other one. You can only digest so much information in one day, right? That's what we're trying to do. Yeah, Ryan, I really do think about that. And it's not, so I'm trying to think of another example off the top of my head, something I can share with you guys. So the whole ritual, sacred space. The other one's about hope. I think he mentions dawn, hope, encourage, new, formed, forged. I think several different places throughout. Again, and it could be, just an hypothesis, that he wasn't sure what exact word he would use in the poem. But he spread that throughout the book. So I guess if we want to unlock it, we got to kind of look for a commonality involved there. I don't know. Just kind of 2 kind of examples to work with. I'm sure we can find more if we dig into it. But, oh, Norman, you I'm about to shut it down. This is Beyond the Map's Edge. All right, put on by the man Justin M. Posey, and he hid 1 point something million in gold and treasure and gems out in the West. All right, so if you live in the West, we're looking like west of the Mississippi. You want to get involved in this because the website's free. It's treasure.quest, spelled like treasure, spelled like quest. Treasure.quest. All the information you want on there. Nordeman, and it's free. You can hop into. All right, and there's plenty of stuff to go through. All right, I'm gonna sign off for the day. Gonna be on Discord for a bit, and I really appreciate everyone who showed up. The next live is Monday at 12:30. We always do the lives East Coast time, Monday 12:30. And I normally put up a couple videos throughout the week. There'll be a treasure video probably Wednesday, Thursday-ish. So look forward to that. All right, guys. Thanks for watching again. Take care.